Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors suffer a 107-90 defeat to the Minnesota Timberwolves at Chase Center on Friday night. I apologize for being a little bit late, just had to duck out for a little bit. A couple of comments already here in the stream from Dash Stream says, that was the most disgusting Keystone Cops display yet. All of those unforced turnovers were so painful to watch, I finally had to turn it off. Please, can they trade for some players who can shoot the ball? Yeah, let's talk about the offense because this is a growing concern and has been over these last 7 games. Now the Warriors have now lost 6 of their past 7. Yesterday's win, obviously, against the Rockets was a very good one without Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, but the juice and the energy that came from that has kind of gone away pretty quickly as a result of this loss. I suppose when you look at the 2 games in totality, you think of missing Steph and Draymond last night, you would have thought, okay, the Warriors are probably going to lose that game. So going 1-1 across the back-to-back isn't a disaster. It's probably what you actually expected. It's not too bad. But when you get Steph and Draymond back after not playing yesterday, you certainly expect to put in a far better performance against the Timberwolves team. Yes, starting to find some rhythm and momentum. They've now won 4 straight, but certainly not having a great season and certainly don't look as good as they did last season. And the Warrior offense right now is just, again, you go back to last night's game, you win that game impressively, but it's down to the defense and Kuminga having a career-high game. That's what it took to get you the win. And in this one, just everything that kind of could go wrong offensively did. You did not shoot the ball well at all. 39% from the floor, 28.2%, I think, from three-point range. You turned it over a season high 22 times. If you turn the ball over 22 times and you shoot less than 40% from the floor, there is legitimately no chance you can win a game of basketball in the NBA. Like, you just cannot. And some of the stretches that we saw in this game were abysmal, like the worst offensive stretches you'll ever see from a basketball team. Really. You saw early second quarter. Like, the first quarter was fine. Both teams had it actually, kind of rolling with some good shot making in the first quarter. I think it was tied 31 apiece. Buddy Hield has a jump shot, start of the second quarter, makes it 33-31. And then over the next, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, the Timberwolves go on a 23-2 run. And it wasn't as if, the Timberwolves were absolutely shooting lights out or anything. It was just the Warriors could not put the ball in the basket, even if it didn't matter what they tried. It was an absolute disaster. So you have that period, right, where you lead by 2 and all of a sudden you're down 19. They finish on an 11-2 run to close the half, get it back to 10, and you think, actually, that's not a bad spot to be in, given they were down by 19, given they went that 9-10 minute period with only scoring 2 points. And you think, well, that can't happen again. Well, it kind of did, maybe not to the same extent, but you start the third out on an 11-4 run, you pull within 3, and you think, okay, now it's a 50-50 game again. But then Steve goes to this really bizarre lineup midway through the third quarter, which might be the weirdest lineup we've seen all season, and I think it'll be hard to top it over the next, what have we got here, next 60 games. I think you'd probably struggle to top that lineup we saw, which was Pat Spencer, Lindy Waters, Gary Payton II, Draymond Green, Trace Jackson Davis. And they played 3 minutes together and didn't score a field goal, which is unsurprising. I tweeted out, how do you manage, how do you think you're going to generate offense with that lineup? It's just impossible. Now, it didn't help that Trace blew the easiest wide open layup you've ever seen, a couple of wide open threes from Lindy Waters that he missed and stuff like that. But it's in Steve's defense, and there's not much you can really defend in regards to Steve Kerr. I gave a lot of praise to him after yesterday's win because I thought he coached very well against the Rockets. This one, a lot of fans heavily critical, and probably rightly so. I do want to defend him in saying that Andrew Wiggins goes out of the ball game early third quarter with that ankle injury and doesn't return. That's obviously one of your top 3 scorers, and that makes it difficult. But I think in that situation, you have to react by saying, well, we don't have Wiggins anymore. Surely you've got to have either Curry or Kuminga on the floor at all times. And then when he went to that lineup where there's no Steph, there's no Kuminga, and obviously Wiggins is out, and there's no Moses Moody, who was also out for the second half with a knee issue. Like, where is the offense coming from? There wasn't even Buddy Hield in that lineup. And Buddy Hield's struggling at the moment. He's a flat-out disaster. So that's not an egregious call not to have him on the floor because he's just playing that badly at the moment. But my goodness, how do you expect to generate offense with that lineup? So you have that period there where you just can't get any offense. Steph comes back, hits a big three at the end of the third in the final second, kind of a big play there where the Timberwolves should have had the last possession. Then there was an offensive foul turnover, I think it was. Curry hits the three. You're within 6 entering the fourth, and you think you're still, okay, we're still in a good spot here. We can still win the game. Steph makes a three early fourth quarter, pulls it back to within 3. And you think, okay, we're a genuine chance. And then across the next 7 minutes of game time, you score 4 points. 4 points in 7 minutes. And then the Timberwolves blow you out. Like, you can't have a 9-10 minute stretch where you score 2 points and then a 7-minute stretch where you score 4 points. That's like 18 minutes. Like, that's almost over a third of the game where you scored like a total of 6 points. You can't win a game like that. Like, it is flat out impossible to win a game by having multiple stretches of long periods where you just cannot get any offense going. You just can't win games. As I said before, you can't win a game committing 22 turnovers and shooting less than 40% from the floor, less than 29% from 3. Literally impossible. So this offense is just horrific. Thendeka, I don't understand Kuminga. We got full. Let me break up some comments here from you, Thendeka. I don't understand Kuminga. What exactly from Kuminga don't you want? I don't think he played well. Like, he was obviously poor. He had 13 points on 15 shots, inefficient, couple of sloppy turnovers, as did the whole team, to be honest. He's still the Warriors' second or third best option offensively. Now, maybe that's a problem more than anything else, but I'm not going to overreact to this poor performance. He just had a career-high 33 points on Thursday against the Rockets like 24 hours ago. So we can't be all in on him 24 hours ago and then all out on him 24 hours later. You've got to kind of hitch yourself to a wagon somewhere. And for me, like, I was pleased, and I want ultimately JK to be a Warrior player moving forward and for him to become the player that he thinks he can be as a star-level scorer in this league. The Warriors need that. I still think if the Warriors, unless they make a significant trade move, their best route to being a top-end contender in the Western Conference is by Jonathan Kuminga becoming the player that he wants to be in terms of being a consistent 20-plus point per game scorer in this league. Again, I'm not going to overreact too much. I think yesterday's game against the Rockets is kind of a great matchup for him because the Rockets don't have too much interior presence. They have some perimeter defenders, sure, don't have too much on the interior that JK necessarily has to worry about. And then in this game against the Timberwolves, well, they do with Gobert. He clearly made a difference at times with guys trying to attack the rim or even like warding guys off from even trying at the rim. Naz Reid had that huge block on Draymond in the fourth where the Warriors were still in it slightly. He's not a rim protector as such, but he's capable. And, you know, so they've got a couple of twin towers there. They've got some size on the interior that is going to make things difficult for JK and others going to the paint. So, yeah, I'm not going to, like, the Kuminga thing you said. So Kuminga is too inconsistent, though. I think he plays better when Wiggins is in the lineup. Yeah, that's still a wait and see for me because there was so much of last season where Steve almost just completely went away from the idea that Kuminga and Wiggins could play together and just try to split them up and play them in different lineups. Now I think it's going to be a case of trying to get those guys playing together. No doubt the Warriors missed Wiggins in the second half. He played okay, again, guarding Ant. What did he end up with? What did he have in the first half? He had 11. I think he had 11 points. I think they all came in the first half. 3 of 8 got to the line, made all 4 of his free throws again. So that's just like a big piece of offense that you take out, and you're already struggling enough offensively without losing him. The Warriors had 4 guys in double figures. Steph, 23 on 17 shots. Kuminga, 13 points on 15 shots. Wiggins, 11 on 8 shots. And then Draymond off the bench. Draymond played well. Now, he was a minus 15, not great, but 10 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, a block, 4 of 8. I thought he played pretty well. He was probably the only positive, really, from this one. He looked pretty good after that calf issue. And I think with him particularly, that lingering calf issue, you kind of want him to come out and look like himself and look good physically, and I thought he did. So moving forward, that's a good result. couple other comments from Thandecker. We got fooled by Buddy Hield. All we need is 15 a night from him. Yeah, this is becoming a disaster. This Buddy Hield stuff, and again, I think I said it. Did I say it yesterday? I think I might have after the post-game live saying that we probably should have listened to some Philly fans, some Pacers fans, some Kings fans who have been through the Buddy Hield experience where he starts off hot and then pretty quickly just goes ice cold. And this is a real disaster right now. He's got to the point where Steve was playing him in garbage minutes in the final 2-3 minutes there to try and get him some rhythm. And this was the first time, I think, all season where it actually started to impact his minutes. He played 13 minutes and 22 seconds. Now, he played 27 minutes yesterday, but I'm sure that was only because Steph was out and they needed some kind of three-point shooting threat out there. Otherwise, with Steph back, he's playing 13 minutes. Like, he's almost out of the rotation. Like, legit almost out of the rotation. 4 points, 2 of 4, 0 of 2 from 3, 3 rebounds, 3 turnovers, a couple of disastrous ones there. Lindy Waters, who's out of the rotation, all of a sudden comes out and plays 19 minutes, 43 seconds. Didn't love that. Goes 2 of 7 from 3, 6 points. They weren't great minutes, but it just goes to show you like how bad Buddy Hield's going when Steve's just saying, yep, Lindy Waters, you're up, because Buddy's not providing us anything. Moses would have certainly played more. He played 6.5 minutes in the first half. That was it. Went out with that knee injury. But, I mean, some of these depth pieces right now that we thought were great at the start of the season are becoming like Waters, no good. Buddy, no good. GP2, 6 rebounds, cool. That's not your job. You need to be able to stick some shots. You went 0 of 3, miss your only 3. You're shooting less than 20% from 3 on the season. Your defense just isn't really there for me right now. You're a minus 14 in the game. Not great. Kyle Anderson probably needs to play more. Get TJD the hell out of there and just give some of these minutes to Slow-Mo and say, Slow-Mo, Draymond, I'm sorry, you guys are going to have to try and man the 4 to the 5 position because you almost can't afford to have Trace Jackson-Davis on the floor at the moment. He is an absolute – tell me what's worse, him or Buddy Hield right now. Him or Buddy Hield, what is worse? They are both disastrous. Trace Jackson-Davis, 3 points, 4 rebounds. Didn't have a rebound against the Rockets yesterday. 1 of 4 shooting, 1 turnover. He had perhaps, and I'm not over-exaggerating, the worst 2-possession offensive sequence I've ever seen in my entire life. He got a beautiful feed from Draymond. This is mid-third quarter with that lineup that I was talking about. He got a beautiful feed from Draymond. He should have just dunked the ball. Just go up and dunk the ball. No one at the rim. Gobert had been sucked out enough by Draymond. Draymond, beautiful pocket feed. Trace, easy dunk. Oh, I'll just right-hand layup this. Oh, I'm that left-hand dominant. I can't finish with my right hand. I'm just going to miss a wide-open right-hand layup that 99.9% of the world would have made. And I can guarantee you 100% of NBA players would have made. And then on the next possession, he gets the ball again near the paint. Instead of driving and having a crack at the rim, where I think he could have, like if he was playing with any confidence right now, he would have at least tried Gobert at the rim on that occasion, maybe try to spike it on his head. Instead, I think it was Waters in the corner. He tries to throw it to Waters in the corner, and it wasn't even close. It was closer to fans sitting baseline than it was Lindy Waters. That 2-possession sequence, what are you doing, man? Like, what? The difference between him like late last season and what he's producing this season, it is, and I didn't think it would happen because it's not like he's a 20-year-old in his second year. He's 24 years old, plenty of college experience. I just thought, okay, yeah, he'll improve upon his rookie year. I could, like the pods regression, I can understand that. He's 21, right? But the Trace stuff, after he looked so good in his rookie year as he's a 24-year-old. What is going on there? Berserk Monk, that motion was so hard to watch, especially in the fourth. Felt like the Warriors were trying too hard to create and just leading to turnovers. Yeah, I spoke about the simplistic nature of yesterday's game without Steph, where it almost feels sometimes like, and not even feels, like it just is the case, that the Warriors almost try and use Steph as a decoy too much and try and get all this action going for Steph, which inevitably leads to a wide open 3 for somebody else who is not named Steph Curry. And so at some point, you just got to say, put the ball in Steph's hands, let him go to work, right? Or put the ball in Kuminga's hands, let him go to work, rather than Draymond, Kyle Anderson, Looney, post-up, split cut actions, like all these other guys facilitating. Just put the ball in your scorer's hands to begin with, rather than them having to come and get the ball off plays. That's why I think it was so much better yesterday. And it's not a Steph thing, it's a Steve Kerr coaching thing. And Steph being out just meant that it had to be a lot more simplistic. You just give the ball to Wiggins, you give the ball to Kuminga, and you let them go to work. Thandeka says, it's like we forget how to play basketball in the fourth, a bunch of sloppy passes. Yeah, it's becoming a concerning issue, this fourth quarter stuff. It was reasonable yesterday because Kuminga just took over and used his athleticism to get to the rim. But otherwise, too much motion offense. Teams are kind of playing for it and just saying, well, we'll leave. The Warriors have that many non-shooters on the floor or non-threats on the floor offensively. Like defenses can leave a couple of guys wide open. They'll just say, cool, go for it. As long as it's not Steph Curry taking the shot. As long as it's not Kuminga going downhill one-on-one or Wiggins. Like everyone else, go for your life. Take as many threes as you want. They're even like Buddy Hield at the moment. A team's really closing out to Buddy Hield that much. A team's really closing out to Lindy Waters. Two guys that are supposed to be known as knockdown three-point shooters. Really, right now, couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. What is going on? Val says, through that, I don't want to say the word, SHIT into the crowd. Yeah, that, the TJD. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. That's my saying. And that was the worst. I don't think I've seen a worse. I mean, I certainly would have, but that 2 possessions in a row, what are you doing? Berserk Monk says, I don't know, man. I understand TJD offensively has bad touch, but he does a lot of good defensive stuff. He didn't have a rebound against the Rockets, but he was primarily trying to box out Steven Adams. Yeah. The issue is you have to be – this is exactly why the Warriors need a trade, to get someone who does have some offensive ability, because there's going to be times where you need the defense and rebounding of TJD and Loon and stuff like that. I get that, absolutely. But you can't be forced into playing a defensive-minded center who just has no scoring ability. TJD is literally, it's a dunk and that's it. Like, he's not making layups. He clearly doesn't take jump shots. It is legitimately a dunk or it's a miss. And so you just have to have something different there. An offensive, not even an offensive-minded player, but a guy that just is capable of putting the ball in the basket. TJD is just like not that, unless it's a dunk. Looney, some of his finishing's probably been a bit better this season, but we know he's limited. Ultimately, he lives on the floor. He's 6'9", so he's actually slightly undersized for as good a rebounder as he is. Takes the very, very occasional jump shot at the end of a shot clock. Just not an offensive threat there. I don't know. Thandeka, Kerr is treating Steph like a role player. Steph shouldn't be running around and being used like a decoy to find someone. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's often a gripe with Warrior fans, is that at the end of the day, like, he's your best player. He's best player in franchise history. He's your superstar. Get the ball in his hands. Like, look what he did down the stretch against the Mavericks. Was it the game before that against the Celtics? Like, you put the ball in his hands, run some pick and roll. Like, Draymond is such a good pick and roll partner for Steph because he's such a good decision maker on the roll. Because inevitably, Steph hits a shot or two, maybe even without hitting a shot or two. Two guys jump at him, Draymond gets, and this is where you can have Kuminga and Wiggins spotting up in the corners, and you can have either open threes from those guys, preferably from Wiggins, or you can have those guys cutting baseline. It's like that tic-tac-toe action where Steph, Draymond, and then it's either another pass or a lob or something to Kuminga or Wiggins cutting baseline. Berserk Monk says, Buddy missing wide open threes is hurt to watch. He's cooled down badly. If he's in a slump, he needs to try and get out of it quickly. It's nearly becoming he plays 13 minutes. It's nearly becoming you're out of the rotation. Because as bad as this game was, I just want to look at this in the lens of moving forward, right? You lose by 17. It is what it is. No one played well. No one played well except for Draymond, probably. Draymond could probably hold his head up high and say, yeah, I played to my ability in that game. Everyone else, again, Wiggins, you can't really count. Moody, you can't really count. Kuminga, inefficient. Looney, no impact. Pajemski made a couple of threes, great, had 6 rebounds. You're also minus 16, which was a game worst. Curry, 23 on 17 shots. Trace, awful. Draymond was okay. Slow-mo, right? Let's move on. How does this impact the Warriors moving forward? The biggest and most interesting aspect to this game happened before and after the game. Dead set. Before and after the game. This is why. Steve Kerr chose to bring Draymond Green off the bench. Right? So retaining Jonathan Kuminga in the starting lineup. Said that before the game. Then, after the game, reiterates that this will be the case for the foreseeable future. And let me just get up Slater's tweet here. This is like really important. This is the most important aspect of this game. Steve says he'd like to. So this is the tweet from Slater, word for word. Steve Kerr said he'd like to keep Draymond Green coming off the bench in the near future. He said they're trying to maximize Jonathan Kuminga and not wear down Draymond Green. Plan is to close halves with Green at center. The Andrew Wiggins ankle injury could complicate puzzle. Okay, so let's just, for a second, just assume that Wiggins is fine, right? And he's not going to miss any time, or if he does, it's a game or two. All right. So Kuminga is going to start now, power forward. And Draymond, for the foreseeable future, according to Steve Kerr, is going to come off the bench. This is a big, big point. And I'm not trying to overreact here. I'm being dead set. This is a huge point in not just the Warriors season, but in the Warriors future for the next 4 or 5 years here. Because this is something I spoke about. I think I spent a whole podcast talking about it in the offseason. I've always said, if Jonathan Kuminga wants to be the player he wants to be, he's probably just going to have to step up and take Draymond Green's starting role. And Draymond's probably going to have to push back into an Iggy-type 6-man role, albeit different player to Andre Iguodala, but similar, probably a bigger stature of player than Andre Iguodala. This is a big moment because if the Warriors are going to succeed, if they are going to be good, as I said before, I still think the Warriors are probably only going to be as good as where Jonathan Kuminga goes individually. And so this is his moment. This is his time. I hope, for the sake of this team, I really hope, this will sound weird, but I desperately hope for the sake of this team that in 20 games, Draymond Green is now a bench player in the NBA. Dead set a bench player that still closes games, still closes halves, still plays 30 minutes a night, but he dead set comes off the bench every game. Because that will tell me that Jonathan Kuminga has taken this opportunity with both hands, thrived, and made sure that he has to stay in the starting lineup moving forward. Right? So I sincerely hope, I love Draymond, but I hope that he almost never starts a game for the Warriors again. At least until playoff time. Come playoff time, you might have to just start him at center. Right, and go with that to begin with, because you just can't afford to play like Lou and TJD and the lack of spacing out there. But we will see if this is a legit thing, or if this is, okay, 2 or 3 games, manage Draymond back, Kuminga's not really got it, and so we're just going to go back to Draymond. And you know what? I think that's the most likely thing. I think the most likely thing is in 4 or 5 games, Draymond Green's back in the starting lineup and Jonathan Kuminga's off the bench. Because you know what? That's just been Jonathan Kuminga's career. It's in and out of the starting lineup repeatedly. That's just what Steve Kerr has done to him, right? So that's what I expect. But again, as I said, I hope he takes this opportunity with both hands and he forces Steve's hand, and basically Steve has to have a conversation with Draymond and says, this is your career now. You're a 6-man. You're our 6. To get where we want to get to, we have to maximize Jonathan Kuminga, as Steve said there in that Slater tweet. This is huge. I'm dead set for the rest of the season and for the next. This could determine Jonathan Kuminga's future at the franchise. I'm not trying to overact. I think this is as big a moment in his career and in the Warriors, the push and pull between the aging core and the young talent. This is as big a moment as there's been. I think that is a legitimate, fair thing to say. That's how I feel about it. Berserk Monk says, yeah, but Kuminga can never be the defensive juggernaut Draymond is, but I do think there needs to be a lot more PNR with Steph and Kuminga, but I do feel we need to stretch 5 to fully maximize that. Agree. I think part of the reason why I think the Kuminga thing won't work and why Draymond will probably be surely back in the starting five pretty soon is because with a non-spacing five, I don't think Kuminga's offense will be enough to offset the obvious defensive concerns you're going to have by having him in starting instead of Draymond, right? If you're going to start Kuminga over Draymond, like you need to see, you need this guy to be a 20-plus point per game scorer for you on a consistent basis. He has to become that. Because if he's not, then the offensive upgrade just isn't worth the defensive downgrade. So we'll wait and see. Do the Warriors lean really heavy into offense and say, you know what, we're going to go out and we're going to get a stretch five. And we're going to become this really dynamic starting offensive lineup where we've got Steph, Wiggins, or even say just closing lineups with Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, and a floor spacing stretch five. We'll wait and see. But I want to kind of finish it on that because I'm not overly concerned with the loss, right? They played badly. There's nothing else you can say about it. They just played terribly. Every player, pretty much every player played terribly individually. They turned the ball over 22 times. They shot 39% from the field, 28% from three. They're the reasons you lost the game. Pretty simple. Very simple. Steve Kerr's lineup's very questionable. We can probably have huge debates on that, but we have huge debates on that every game. The bigger thing to me is how does this look moving forward? And Kuminga starting Draymond off the bench is I had Josh Cornelison, colleague of mine at Fansided, message me as soon as Steve confirmed that Kuminga was in the starting lineup, but Draymond was coming off the bench because he knows. Him and I have had conversations. Him and I have had a conversation on this podcast during the offseason about Draymond coming off the bench in order to maximize Kuminga. I was wondering when this point was going to be reached and if this point was going to be reached or we got to a point where Kuminga was just off the team instead. And that was the end result. Could this be the end result? Could this be Kuminga, guaranteed starter, 30-plus minutes, Draymond, you're the sixth man. You also played 28, 30 minutes. I don't mind it. I think it's worth a crack. But I'm not convinced it's going to work. Anyway, I'm going to finish it up there. Thank you very much to those of you that have tuned in. Obviously, a disappointing one after that 17-point loss. The Warriors will have the opportunity and the chance to bounce back against the Timberwolves on Sunday. Same opponent, same venue. Hopefully, a different result from a Golden State standpoint. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POK252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. We're on Instagram and TikTok. Golden State with Mates as well. I'll see what I'm up to tomorrow in regards to a podcast. Otherwise, look, I could talk all day about this Kuminga Draymond stuff, so maybe I will. But otherwise, probably back for a post-game live following that Timberwolves game on Sunday. Again, hopefully a different result for the Warriors. Thank you again to you guys for tuning in.